All right, it is Friday, and so you should have the yellow paper today. And this is the last day that we're going to talk about exponents, and then next week we will practice everything and learn one more exponent rule. So remember that 2 to the 5th means that there are 5 2's, and then on the bottom of this fraction I have 2 squared, which is 2 2's. And what happens here is that, anything divided by itself is 1. So I'm going to turn that into an invisible 1. 2 divided by 2 is an invisible 1. And how many are left? 1, 2, 3, which means it's 2 cubed. Because 1 times 1 is 1, so those essentially go away. Here I wrote this one out for you. 5 to the 6th power means that there are 6 5's. 5 to the 4th power means that there are 4 5's. And then anything that lines up turns into an invisible 1. So how many are left? 5 squared. Here I have a to the 3rd, which is a times a times a, all divided by 1a. And then if we have a divided by a is just 1, so I'm left with 2, so I have a squared. And then the last one, I have 7 x's on top and 3 x's on the bottom, so any of them that line up become 1's. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 x's, so x to the 4th. And remember, 1 times 1 times 1 is just 1, so there's still no number out here. It's an invisible 1. But the point is, how do we get from this to this without writing everything out? Because if it has said x to the 25th, do you really want to write out 25 x's? And hopefully you notice that the exponents are being subtracted. 5 minus 2 is 3. 6 minus 4 is 2. 3 minus an invisible 1 is 2. And then 7 minus 3 is 4. And so the rule is the quotient of powers property, and this is on your formula chart. And it says that if you have something raised to a power divided by the same base, remember those are your bases, raised to a different power, then you subtract the exponents. Okay? Since we are dividing, though, I would remind you that we would divide any big numbers out in front. So we're going to put some notes out here. Remember, if we are dividing the same base, you will subtract the exponents. Okay? Put a different way, you would divide the big number, which is your coefficient, and subtract the little number, your exponent. Okay, so I have some examples here. Number 1, 9 to the 7th divided by 9 squared. I have the same base, which means I take the exponents and I subtract them. 7 minus 2 is 5, so I have 9 to the 5th power. A to the 11/3, a to the 2/3, which means I take my exponents and I subtract them. 11 minus 2 is 9 over 3, which divides and gives you 3. However, if you would just type that into your calculator, you will get 3. So this is a cubed. And now we get to number 3 where we have coefficients. So remember, over here it says divide the coefficient. So 14 divided by 2 is 7. And then we subtract the exponent, which is 9 minus 5. Notice that I'm always doing top minus bottom. So if you're using your calculator, top number minus the bottom number. So 9 minus 5 is 4. So I have x to the 4th power. And then, let's go down to number 4. I have 30 divided by 5, which is 6. And then I take my exponents and I subtract them, but I have to subtract the same base. So my x's are 7 minus an invisible 1 down here, which gives me 6. So I have x to the 6. And then my y is 9 minus 6, which is 3. So y cubed. And number 5, 255 divided by 17 is 15. And then I look at my m's. I have 3 minus negative 2. And if you type that in, 2 negatives give you a positive, and it's a 5. So I have m to the 5th power. And here I have 14 minus an invisible 1, which I just put in there, which gives me 13. So now I have n to the 13th power. So we're still dividing the big numbers, subtracting the little numbers, right? Next, I have 84, negative 84 divided by 4, which gives me negative 21. And then I deal with my exponents. So I have 12 minus 1. So that gives me 11. And then I have 7 and negative 6. So 7 minus negative 6. Again, 2 negatives become a positive 13. So y to the 13th power. And then the last one, I have z to the negative 10 minus 4, which gives me negative 14. All right, and then the very last one combines yesterday's lesson. So before I can divide anything, I need to figure out what's really on top. So remember, if I have an exponent on the outside, it gets multiplied by all of the exponents on the inside, including the invisible 1. So this really is 2 cubed x to the 6, y to the negative 21. Down the bottom, I take this 2 to all of the exponents, and there are 3 of them down here. There's an invisible 1, and an invisible 1, and a 3. So this should say 4 squared x squared y to the 6th. Now, we need to figure out what these numbers are. So 2 cubed is 8, and then I'm going to write my variables. 4 squared is 16. And then we figure out what is 8 divided by 16. You should get 1/2. And then we take our exponents. I have 6 and 2 here, so 6 minus 2 is 4. So I have x to the 4th. And then I have a negative 21 and a 6. So negative 21 minus 6 is negative 27. So y to the negative 27. All right. Try the summary question. Lewis simplified the following: 12x to the 4th, y to the 5th, all divided by 3xy to the negative 5. And he got 4x cubed. Is he correct? Why or why not? So if you were to divide this, you divide the coefficients, the big number, and you would get 4. And then you would take your exponents. So I have 4 minus an invisible 1, which gives me 3. So we have x cubed. But what he forgot are the y's here. I have 5 minus negative 5. So it's top minus the bottom. The bottom's negative, which means these become a plus, and it becomes 10. So it should be, so we would say he is incorrect. The answer is 4x cubed y to the 10th power. Okay. Why did he miss it? Well, he basically he added the exponents for y instead of subtracting. All right, turn it over. And last day here. You are going to go back to Google Classroom. You're going to click on the quizzes assignment, exponents, day 3. And remember that on these ones, you divide the coefficient, right, which is your big number, and you subtract the exponent, which is your little number.